Welcome to episode 103 of In Touch with iOS, a podcast that talks about iPhone, iPad, Apple Watch, Apple TV, and related technologies, plus tips, apps, and gear. I am your host, Dave Ginsburg, and my co-host, Warren Sklar, is here. How you doing, Warren?
Good. Good evening.
Good evening to you. It's another fun day, another fun week, and I am excited. We have a great guest this week, Mr. Dave Hamilton from the Mac Observer and Mac Geek Gab podcast. How you doing, Dave?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. This is fun to be here.
Yeah. You were here a little while ago. You were a returning guest. We had a lot of fun. I think last time we saw each other was at MacStock. I remember doing a fun interview with you at that time. I think we could have gone on for about an hour or two as we were talking because there's so much to talk about. So it's a lot of fun. So, but there's a lot to talk about this week. The Worldwide Developers Conference is coming pretty soon here next week, Monday. Everybody's all getting prepped for it, and we'll touch upon that a little bit. Plus, I've got some pretty in-depth news discussions this week. I've had some interesting conversations about app stores, issues, and such. We'll get into that, as well as I have the T-Mobile home internet. I decided to try it out, and I think that Dave's take on networking on that, and then a lot more to talk about here. So let's just dive right into the news here. First story caught my eye was Google Meet. They have now added it to the Gmail iOS app. This was on Mac Rumors. The Google Meet app was a premium service, but I guess Google's getting on the bandwagon here, and they want to be along with Zoom and with WebEx. Of course, they've opened their thing up, and now that they've added all the features into the iOS app, which is interesting. Now you can actually join a Google Meet app, and I think my wife and many teachers will be happy since that's where they live, is in Google Meet. So good thing to do here. Dave, what do you think about the Google Meet decisions that they made?
I thought it makes sense to consolidate it into one app, but they've always had a Hangouts app. And so I thought it was interesting that they chose not to repurpose that right. So I thought that was okay. I mean, I'm sure there's some either engineering or even like internally political reason for them to have made this choice, or maybe both, right? But yeah, I thought that was interesting. It was like, well, there's the Hangouts app though, so
I'm wondering where that goes. So, but I think it's going to be Meet to go for Google Meet. So, what did you think, Warren?
From what I read or heard, it actually maybe will do neat things like it uses machine learning to get rid of some of the noises I heard, and something about dogs. It will erase dogs barking. I don't know if that's out yet, but that's what somebody was saying. So it supposedly does some neat tricks. I haven't tried it out yet. I know Facebook also is doing their messengers now does groups too, right? So I see the commercial where they all sing all together now. So I haven't tried that one out. I guess they're all trying at this point because, why not? This is a time to do it. I think Zoom just said that they're making their end-to-end encryption free for all users, including the non-paying ones. So, if you're, I guess the feeling is once this pandemic ends and video conferencing becomes more of a back thought and people go to pay again, they're going to try to grab the audience now what they can. So this is their time.
I think we will see a net increase in video conferencing when even once this is all over, whatever all over means. A lot of companies, right, have said, we've adapted, we've figured out how to be productive with people working at home, and some have even told their employees, like, you will never be, required to be in the office again. So choose where you want to live, figure all that out. Don't worry about, needing to come back in the future. So, and it makes sense. There are some things where I think companies, there is a risk to productivity if you're not all together. But if you have the right people for the right project, obviously you can be productive in a virtual way. I mean, we here at Mac Observer pretend like we're productive all the time, and we've been doing that virtually for 21 years, right? So
yeah, that's true.
I mean, sort of. We've had Office Space at times. When we first started, we had Office Space, and then we had some again at another spot. But even then, there were at least some people that were permanently virtual. So there was always, this kind of thing. So I think these companies are smart to establish themselves now in this and show, how reliable it is and how well it works, and then just get themselves ingrained. And then it'll be like, oh, yeah, we'll just do a Zoom meeting. Great, no problem.
Yeah.
Or a Meet meeting or whatever.
I'm so used to it now.
Healthcare is a big one too. I work in healthcare, and everybody's starting with the virtual health meetings, and they love it. I mean, everybody loves, including the doctors and nurses. And I actually I was supposed to come in for a follow up to take medication I'm on, and this happened. And then normally it's in Philadelphia, which is a pain. And they're like, "Oh, we could do it virtually." I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, take 5-10 minutes and you could do probably about 80%. Because a lot of times you go to a doctor's office, they take vitals and things like that, but sometimes they don't. So, industries are just going to move towards that. Like Dave said, a lot of people are just going to say, hey, we didn't think we could do it, and now we had proof of concept that we can, and it's cheaper. And my wife works for kind of a global company, and she did before. And I've said this before, but they would send her overseas to London for like a day and a half to meet at like 2 or 3 high powered people, and I'm like, they're crazy. Why are they spending all this money when this is like a video call or So now they're like, yeah, well, maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah, when it went right, not early on, about midway through, the first thing that I did breaking quarantine, I had this spot on my arm, and I was like, this has been here for too long. Like, I got to get this looked at. It's, I don't want to push it off again. And so I went to my dermatologist, and he said, oh yeah, he said, this one, it's good that you came in, and he biopsied it. Everything was fine. So it was like, great. But he said, for years, we've been trying to do telehealth. And there's just been pushback from all the regulatory agencies. He said last week, they said, you guys should do telehealth. And he said in less than an hour, they were completely signed up and everything was good to go for it. He's like, they got all the red tape out of the way. He's like, so we're going to stick with it. He said, because, so many things are, show me your, whatever spot you got. And then I'll tell you if you need to come in or if we're good, and then you're good. So. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go on to the next story. Next story here, and also Mac Rumors. Lots of discussion about this one. The Hey email app was threatened by Apple to be removed because the lack of in-app store subscription options. The Hey, which was launched on Monday, is a email service, I guess. $99 a year they're charging, so it must be some pretty good service here. And subscriptions had to be purchased at the Hey website and not offered through the iOS App Store. Well, Apple, doesn't like that in the App Store. Interesting backstory about Hey. I don't know if you knew this, Dave. Leo Laporte, his original producer, Dane Golden, owned the domain hey.com. And I remember him talking about that because I've been a fan of Leo's for a long time, about how he was so proud of the fact that because owning a 3-letter domain was pretty impressive, because so they were pretty much gone at that point.
Yeah, it was still impressive. That's right. Yeah.
So Leo was just talking about the other day on, I believe it on Mac Break Weekly, and he says, I wonder how much money Dane really made off of that sale, because he refused to sell it because it was his business originally, and apparently he sold it. So I venture to say he made a pretty good buck out of that. So apparently this is a pretty cool email service. But I think a lot of the debate of the story was the fact that Apple's very stringent rules about in-app purchases. Dave, what'd you think about this whole thing? This is crazy.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface, there's no surprise here, right?
No, none at all.
This is completely in violation of what Apple's rules are. So from that standpoint, yeah, of course Apple bounced it. Like this wasn't even one of those fringe cases where it's like,
right,
okay, come on, guys, but there is a come on, guys thing going on here right now with everybody pushing back and saying, okay, maybe it's time to talk about the App Store rules. It is Apple's store. Now, so it's an interesting conversation to have. Yeah, Apple takes 30%. Should Apple be taking 30% of a subscription service that's usable everywhere? I would love to know what their deal was when things like Netflix could be purchased through Apple. You can't do that anymore, but they grandfathered people in if you had it going that way. But my guess is that Netflix wasn't coughing up 30% to Apple for that stuff. I feel like there's room. And, clearly if, the three of us are having this conversation here, it's definitely happening and has been happening for a very long time inside of Apple. Mm-hmm. So they've gone through this. Whether they will announce and make a change remains to be seen, obviously. Phil Schiller came out today, right, and pushed back a little bit.
We're going to talk
Twitter.
about that. I had an article on that.
Yeah, but I get it. I get both sides of this, right? Apple's been very clear on this front. And this is not, like I said, this is not one of those edge cases. This is really clear. But I also understand where Hey is coming from, where it's like, look, we want to be on iPhones. You want us on iPhones. Right. You need to be more developer friendly. And that's basically what they're saying is like, we want to be there and we know you want us there. So this 30%, hard and fast limit is in their eyes and with their model somewhat draconian. Now, the thing is, though, like if Apple were to make an exception for Hey, it would be a very public exception at this point, right? There's no, like whatever the backroom deal may or may not have been with Netflix, and I'm only speculating. I truly have no idea. Yeah. It was never public, and we can talk about it all we want, but no one broke, right? No one will talk about it. So if they did that here, it would be obvious that they did it, and they would need to offer something official for everyone. Otherwise, it would be off the rails. So I think Apple's, measured response here and is smart. It's good that they don't have somebody saying you're holding it wrong, but it's also good that they don't have somebody saying, you're definitely wrong. I mean, Schiller said this is Apple's policy, but he did it in a, soft-ish way, I guess. I don't know.
In a Schiller way.
In a Schiller way. There you go. Right, that's the adjective.
Yeah. What did you think, Warren?
Just when you guys were kind of talking about that, and David brought up the point about the backroom deals and some of the bigger companies. Didn't Office go onto the Office went onto the App Store for the Mac App Store recently.
Microsoft did, yes.
Microsoft did, but I also think it's also on iOS too.
Yes.
Yep.
And I know you could log in with your subscription to Office 365.
Yep.
I don't know how are they getting, since they put it on Office on iOS in the App Store, are they getting 30% of that? Because it's kind of the same deal. It's a subscription that flows across multiple platforms.
Yep.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Keep going.
No.
I have a thought here. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's sort of the same kind of deal. And then, the other thought I had is I bet there's a couple other things that are avoiding it. And the other thing that comes to mind is like SetApp, which is great on the Mac.
Yeah.
There's no reason why they couldn't, include iOS apps. I bet they're not, because they're like, hey, if we started including iOS apps, we might have this problem of a 30% issue. So it's also strange that the Mac App Store doesn't really do the same thing as the iOS App Store. It's kind of the same stores, and the only reason they're not doing it is because Apple knows that you could get easily the program onto your computer without the App Store on the Mac. So it's a locked wall garden on that case. But go ahead.
No, you bring up a good point. Like even the Netflix example. Right now, you cannot sign up for Netflix in the app. Right? You cannot buy a Kindle book in the app. You have to go to Amazon or Netflix's website and sign up, and now you're in. And the same is true with Office. But I know with Office, if you just download, Office on your iOS device, you can use it. You can't save, or like there's some pretty hard and fast limitations, but there is a free way without ever spending money to use it. Then you go and sign up over there, and now it unlocks everything. And I think maybe that's what Schiller was getting at. Like, there is no free way to use the Hey app, and you have to have a subscription.
Right.
And they don't, so it's like there's no benefit to someone randomly who downloads this for just having the app. Even with Netflix, I think you can activate your trial or something like that, right, in the app without, right? I think so. I mean, it's been so long. I've had a Netflix subscription since they were shipping me DVDs. I honestly, I don't know.
Right, but that's what there was. I mean, so that's what they're calling the reader. The reader app is basically a reader app. Is what they're saying is if you cannot sign up for the service and enter in your payment details,
right,
in the app, then they consider a reader app, and then it's kosher, which doesn't make too much sense with Hey, because Hey is doing the same thing, right? They're saying there's no way to sign up for the service within the app. You have to sign up outside the app, put in your payment info, and then you can sign in. So it's the same business model as Netflix. It's just
But I think with Netflix, you can get a free trial in the app without having to sign up or any of that. I think that's the distinction here. Certainly, that's the case with Office. And with Hey, like, it's useless without paying for it. And
if all they have to do is, and they could easily do this, is give a 15-day free trial once you download the app. Yep. Does that mean they're okay? As
long as they do, I would say if they did what Netflix was, whatever, way analogous to what Netflix does. And now I got to go research Netflix so that I can not just stumble over myself talking about this. But like, that would be the thing. Maybe somebody watching in the Facebook channel will, hip us to what happens there. But yeah, it's an interesting scenario, right? So
for sure, yeah.
We have articles to what we're talking about here in the show notes. Yeah, I don't think we have to go too much about what Phil Schiller said. Basically, we said it. He's not. It's just the way it is. That's how Apple's done it for years. It's never been an issue. But there was an article about an antitrust committee chairman calling the App Store fees highway robbery, was the quote. And 30% is pretty steep for a lot of these developers. But Apple's been doing it for a long time. I don't think, and most of these developers have been happy the way things have gone. They're making nothing but money on a lot of these apps. Apple's doing very well with that, as well as the developers too. I mean, you see by looking at the developers conference, a lot of people are there every year. So I can't see why this is coming up now because of this Hey controversy. I think is really where it's at.
Yeah.
Poor timing, I guess, for this.
Yeah, really poor timing. Yeah, how ironic. And then
they're probably Tim Cook's probably like, thankfully we're not doing this in person. We don't, we don't sell enough pitchforks to. Nobody's coming in with the pitchforks and the fire to yell at us. So.
And how ironic, we were on Twitter this morning talking to Rogue Amoeba and what they had to go through and all the disappointment. And that's an awesome company. And you and I both agree, Dave, that they make amazing products. I own every one of their products, so I must like them. So,
yeah, I know. And I like in their eyes, they give me licenses to all their products because we talk about them on the show and all that stuff. What they probably don't know is that with a different email account, I go and I buy all their products because I use them. Right. Like I could not do my job without them. So I'm with you. I pay for them. Yeah.
No, I want to support the developer. I mean, they totally deserve it. So, that's a lot of what the big discussions were this week. It's going to be interesting to see where we go next week and where the developers conference goes. This will probably, I think, will just kind of go away. I kind of had a feeling.
Probably.
Other thing was kind of disappointing was T-Mobile. T-Mobile's network went out the other day, and I couldn't believe it. I mean, I couldn't make phone calls. Warren's on T-Mobile. I'm sure you have Mint. Mint is on T-Mobile. Yep. We were all out for almost 12 or 14 hours on this past week, Tuesday, I think it was. And
I didn't even notice until somebody told me.
Yeah, because I don't make phone calls.
That's how often I use my phone. I'm always on Wi-Fi.
Yeah. And I thought it was interesting in this article. This was on T-Mo News that the Neville Ray, the president of technology, explains that the event was triggered. The outage was a leased fiber circuit failure from a third-party provider in the Southwest. Now, why would that affect? Or, excuse me, Southeast, and then that part of the country was where it started, but then it just went nuts and went across the whole country. So, and they said it was an IP traffic storm that spread from there on its way. I mean, you're in the networking, Dave. I can't believe this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it makes sense, right? If their network is built to handle a certain capacity, right, and then you lose a significant chunk of that network, if it's all based on IP, which it is,
right,
it would naturally try to route around the damage, right? That's what TCP/IP does,
right.
But if the rest of the network can't handle the traffic that's getting pushed there, well, then you have this cascading failure. And it sounds like that's exactly what happened. And we've seen that in smaller scale and more, I would say, more compartmentalized things with servers and stuff on the internet. Like you'll be like, oh yeah, getting to that site is slow today, or getting to anything from my area is slow today. And it's usually something like this, a router went down, BGP routes got, barfed out there. And now suddenly all these things that we're used to running at 70% capacity are running at 120% capacity.
Yeah.
And, it's like, it kind of limps along or worse.
Absolutely. Any thoughts, Warren?
No, except people thought it was a denial of service attack at first, and they kind of said it wasn't. But that's exactly what a denial of service does. Basically, it's just kind of makes it so everything just kind of freezes up on a network.
Yeah.
And, even, I've managed, 10, 20, 30 user workstation server networks.
Right.
And when you find out one computer that does a TCP IP storm, and you got to find that. So it's hard on 30 computers. I imagine it's very difficult on 3 million computers to find it.
Crazy, but glad it's back. And I know the FCC they say they're going to investigate what happened, but
as they should.
I mean, make sure everything was legit. So see where it goes. Next story,
and to take a look and make sure that if there's something that can be learned from this, it's shared industry wide and not just kept inside T-Mobile, right?
Lessons learned. They got to have some lessons learned on this. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Next story from this great source, the Mac Observer. Apple Card 0% financing expanded to more products. Our friend Andrew Orr wrote this article about the Apple Card 0% financing. I'm pretty excited about this. They're expanding purchases, so you could go like as much as an iPad, AirPods Pro, an Apple Pencil, iPads, Macs, and all that could be 0% for 12-month period. All you do is purchase it on the card, and you get 12 months free interest, and plus you get 3% cash back. So if you make a big purchase like a Mac, I mean that's a nice chunk of money back. Plus you get free interest for a year. Warren, what'd you think?
Well, combine that with the in-store Mac trading program, and once these stores open, I think I'm just gonna go every couple of weeks and come in with my, sir, didn't you just buy that MacBook? I did, but you have this new one that just came out. Just give me the money, give me the gift card, and I'll put it on my Apple card, and we'll see what happens. And of course, by 2021, I'll have maxed out my card. But it's all good. It's all worth it.
I tease Warren all the time because he buys a Mac it seems like every other day.
Look, there are worse addictions you could have.
That's what I tell my wife, but she doesn't believe me. I'm pretty good with my Apple Card. I buy and then I pay it off real fast just to get the 3%. So it's probably something I wouldn't. I just feel uncomfortable having to balance anyways. But what is it? 12 months, and it just doesn't kill you on the finances. And supposedly, if you buy a small item with it, like if you buy an iPad Pro with a pencil, the pencil gets you the year financing too, which normally gets to 6 months. But so they're trying to entice you. Maybe if you buy a MacBook Pro, they'll throw in I don't know,
Apple doesn't throw in anything.
That's what I say. What are they throwing? Unless your education, the graduation, the graduates are getting free AirPods if you buy a Mac. So.
Well, you get the free AirPods. Yeah,
if you buy a Mac, it's not
right.
It has been made very clear to me that this is not free. You get a credit towards AirPods, and it's $169 credit. So you could use that credit in full to purchase AirPods, or you can apply it towards AirPods Pro. Right. But it was,
which is still good. And you get the student discount. Yeah. So if you're a student, you get the student discount and you get that, which is not a bad thing. I've done that. Actually, I don't even think you have to be a student to get the free, the $169 credit. I think
I've done it through education. My wife's a teacher. So
I've done it even without education.
Life, aren't we?
Yeah. We are life students. Yeah.
We are life. But I did it 1 year. I got a pair of Beats that I sold on Craigslist. I think
I still have them. I think I have all the last two. So, but no, I'm glad Apple went with this, having this card. I think it's great. I mean, I had the Barclays. I still have it. I mean, and apparently they're still keeping the Apple rewards on it, which is surprising. And it's I'd rather just deal with the Apple card with Goldman Sachs, and but Barclays is still doing it. So they just get emails. They're 18 months they're given. So if they really need to finance,
the first Apple credit card, that bank does not do the Apple credit card anymore, and that was Citibank.
Right? Yeah, when you work for them.
I worked. The attorney that managed that whole project was 2 doors down from me. At Citibank. So that was one of those things. I heard about it way early, and it was like, oh, if I tell Mac Week about this, I could get a Mac Week mug. And it's like, and then I could get fired.
That's right.
But that was in those days where if you sent a legit rumor into to Mac Week, they'd send you a mug. And I'm like, yeah, it'd be cool to have a mug, but I don't think so.
Nah. Warren, why don't you take this one, since this is your story this week about the AirPower return?
And I just kind of saw this today. I think John Prosser, the guy who got a couple things right, and it's pretty interesting. But he said they're still kind of working on this, Matt, which I think this story. This is not brand new of a story. I think a couple of months ago, the same thing was said, that they're still working on it. My joke is it's going to be $100,000 with the R&D involved with it. So, I mean, I could just picture Tim Cook like standing over a production line with his arms crossed, saying, "Nobody's going home until the thing is done. I don't care if nobody sells any one of these, but we're getting this done. We said we're going to do it." And it's just funny. I personally have no real desire to have this thing unless it does anything other than charge my stuff. But it's just a funny story that's just not going to die.
So many people have solved this problem already in fairly elegant ways. Now, the way Apple sort of pitched it to us, and I still maintain that they had people they have people dreaming up ideas all the time inside of Apple, right? And then they say no to most of them. Something happened before that iPhone 10 event back in 2017, and they were like, we need one more thing. We need something else to throw into this event. What's in the hopper? And somebody was like, I got a thing. And so this not even half-baked idea, was propped up and trotted out. And, what they want to do is have this mat where you can just throw things down and magically the Qi coils are everywhere and it just works. And, physics doesn't quite allow that to happen, at least as we understand it in this timeline. Now, maybe another timeline, physics works differently, but in this one, no. So I said, other people have solved this in really nice ways where you've got little targets and the things sort of drop into their spots and it works fine. But why you would need this, I don't know. It seems like they're hanging on. If they are on this, somebody's hanging on. Like you said, it's the story that won't die.
Yeah. Exactly.
And they're kind of over that. If they ever get the thing out, it's going to do things. I mean, your Mac or your phone's kind of talk to it, and it's going to see the levels, and you're going to have a nice little widget on the side that's going to say all your stuff, your air power thing is doing this and that and things like that. So it's going to like talk to it. But, as you said, you could get Qi chargers for like $5 now. I mean, at this point. Yeah. So, when they announced it, it was kind of there wasn't that many things out there. And, I personally don't even like wireless charging that much either because, I like to plug in. I like to hold my phone and use it while it's plugged in. You can't really do both. Again, it should be, unless it does something like really cool, which maybe they'll integrate a HomePod Mini into it. Who knows? That would be cool. Like if you had like an alarm clock size HomePod Mini with the Qi thing on the air power on top, I'd buy that.
Yeah. I'd be interested. I've been following this company Energous for a while. They have this technology called Watt Up that sort of takes it even further. In fact, I've seen it charge a remote control from 15 feet away from like the TV where the bar is and stuff. And that's pretty cool. And it that wouldn't really work. There's not enough power that you could send to charge your phone or whatever. But for your AirPods and things like that, that would be handy if we just had something like that. And to charge our wireless keyboards and mice, I should say, and trackpads like that. I'd rather see them head down that path than
that's the future. I mean, people talk wireless charging, and it's not really. It's magnets. It's just two magnets kind of talking to each other, and
essentially,
and then going together. And I had one of these mats even before. I think one of the first ones that I've ever seen. That I think I have it somewhere before Qi was even a word. But it was the same concept. I had a phone case. For one of my phones that you put on the back, and it went on this. I think I got it at Radio Shack, and it was kind of the same thing. But yeah, wireless over-the-air wireless charging, even if it's keeps your phone sort of charged. I think Apple put themselves in a corner too with the Apple Watch, making it kind of different standard than most anything else. I think it would have been a lot easier. A lot of companies would have a lot easier time if it's just a normal Qi, because then you could kind of put your watch down anywhere. Where now, that's the problem they're having with the mat. If you put your watch down, it's not going to charge unless it's on the actual part that charges the Apple Watch with the magnetic charger.
Right.
So I think that's part of the problem they're having, where if it's just standard, I think they would have an easier time doing it.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about the watch. That was an interesting choice to not. It's kind of sort of Qi, right? But it's not really Qi. So
right. It's got to have that. Got to have that little round connector to give the right charge to it. So all right. Great chat about the news. Let's move on to some of the topics this week. Dave, you don't know, we usually have a beta segment each week because Warren lives on the edge and likes to have every device that he has in his household on beta. And
I'm very nervous because this is actually the last week of stable computing for me. I think next week is going to be
iOS 14 is going to be out probably.
So I'm nervous. Man. I'm nervous.
He's very brave. His computer stops working on it. I said, I bet you're on beta, aren't you?
Well, I'm gonna for the Macs. I think I'm just gonna do a separate partition for that stuff.
That's good move.
The phone is the one that's gonna be a hard pill, I think, because I kind of need that. And the first beta is always a mess, and you have to. I remember I was at WWDC once, and I put the first beta on there. I had to run out to a T-Mobile store to get a battery charger back because my battery. I could see my battery going like you just look at it, you just watch the battery go from like 100 to 0
in like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
I made the mistake at WWDC once. I upgraded the laptop. Usually I will upgrade my laptop to the Mac OS betas right away and then live with that, which is fine. It's always worked for me. That's not my daily driver here in the office or anything. So it's fine. Well, I did it at WWDC before I finished recording all my podcasts for the week. And it was the year that they made all these core audio changes. And we were still recording with Audio Hijack. I did it. It was weird. Like I realized as soon as I started recording, I was like, oh, I really made a mistake here, but I think it's going to work. And I saw Paul Kafasis the next day and was like, hey, yeah, I recorded on the thing. He's like, what did you use? I'm like, well, Rogan, I used Audio Hijack. He's like, it works? Like, well, I have some information for you. And he's like, yeah, but you got the show out. I'm like, yeah, kind of worked. But now I've learned, even, obviously this year I won't be out there, but when I'm out there, I wait until later in the week to upgrade.
Warren, 13.6
this year we'll do it. 13.6 is good. It's better than the last beta or 2 beta. Was it last beta? The last beta was bad, right? I was telling you that one where the proximity sensor decided just to pop up whenever didn't turn off the display every time I felt like it. So that made using the phone a little difficult when it wasn't on. I'm guessing this is going to be the last iOS 13 beta.
I don't know. We've had crossovers in the past. I'm a little worried. We're getting near the end here. 13.6 may not come out of beta right away. You might have both going at once.
That's
I wouldn't think so
because once 14 comes out, then the beta's on that. Then I kind of drop the iOS 13 beta is like a hot dish there. I don't want to do both. Well, no, I guess you could, but we'll see.
All right, and WWDC, as we said, and we're talking about the last 2 weeks now. This week and last is this coming Monday, June 22nd. I've been so excited. I can't wait. I've been waiting for a long time to finally be able to watch the keynote and find out what's going on. Apple actually did a YouTube video and had allowed people to click reminders as alerts from the YouTube video, so you don't miss it. It gets it on your calendar and you are alerted. And this is really different for Apple, and every developer is going to be able to attend all the conferences all virtually. So it's going to be something really different from years past. Dave, I know you've got lots of experience going to DubDub each year. This has got to be something different for you, for sure. I have not been to it yet, but.
Well, the weirdest part for me is, I haven't traveled in 3 months, which is
that too.
strange for me. I'm used to being, I'm extremely lucky. Like things are fine, right? But for the most part, I don't leave the house or the office here. But I do tend to travel, at least somewhere once a month, kind of thing, and and so not getting ready to head out there. It'll be interesting. Like one of the benefits of being there is all of the immersion in all of it, right? And for the past several years, I have not gotten a ticket to go to DubDub. I'll go to the keynote, and I'll go to AltConf and just hang out kind of in San Jose. So not seeing all the people that we do business with, it does create a lot of gravity for that segment of the market. Is it every developer that's there? No, not even close, right? But the people that are sort of active in the market that are, the people that we would be doing business with and that sort of thing, most of them are there. So not being able to see all those people, I mean, we're all in the same boat. It's not like I'm choosing to stay here and everybody's there and it'll be like, oh, hey, we haven't seen Dave in a while. But it is strange. And I wonder for the developers that do go, they, when you're there, you have far less distractions from the sessions than you would if you're sitting in your office just like every other day lately.
There you go.
So are people really going to be able to sit there and pay full attention to these sessions like they would in the room? And I know full attention is sort of a misnomer. You could have your laptop out. Most people do. There's always instant messages and emails, and all those distractions don't go away unless you make them go away. But you are in a different environment, and that lends itself to thinking and approaching things differently. I'm curious to hear from developers how that goes. Yeah. I know even for the keynote, watching it from my couch is a very different experience from sitting in those uncomfortable chairs in the room. But you don't get that energy. You don't get the same focus. It's a different kind of focus. So yeah, it's just different. Everything's different.
And they're not going to be able to take off. Are they going to take work off? That's a big thing too. Because if you're working, do you go to your boss and say, "Listen, it's WWDC. I'd normally be there. I normally take the week off, but I'm not."
It's a holiday for me.
Yeah, well, add that to working from home, and it's like, do you really? What do you do? I mean, can you fit in these sessions here and do work there? And is there just even a blurred line between work and the conference at this point? So,
yep.
Yeah. So I'm with you. It's going to be interesting how much I get out of it. But supposedly they could sign. There are going to be WebEx sections, I guess, with the developer sessions.
The labs, you mean?
The labs, yeah.
So you get one-on-one time with an Apple engineer. Even that is, I mean, it's great that they're doing that and that they found a way to, accommodate that. But I've experienced the labs a couple of times. We don't do enough stuff that we would do it every year, but there have been some things. And it's really handy to go to the lab and, you get your appointment with whomever you're assigned to. And one year we had this weird problem we were having with Safari with one of the engines that we built. And it was clearly a bug in Safari. And I pointed it out to this guy and he's like, "Oh, that's Tim's bug. He's been looking for a way to replicate this." And then he was like, "Tim, come on over." And then Tim was there. And it wasn't, I don't know what the guy's name wasn't Tim, but
I'm thinking Cook. Wow, he programs. That's great.
Yeah, exactly. But it was like, and so Tim and I sat down for probably an hour and he was constantly recompile, he would make a change, recompile Safari on his laptop. Then we'd test, that. And finally he got it fixed and it was like, great. And I'm like, "So when do I get this?" And he's like, "So, it takes a while to get in the thing." He's like, "It'll probably be 2 updates from now by the time it's there." And it's like, okay, but at least we know, like the bugs, I've seen it, it's fixed. So but I didn't, like my luck of the draw was that I did not pick Tim. I was assigned somebody else, but there was a team of people that all worked together. I don't know how that's going to work in the WebExes. Probably not as collaboratively.
Definitely not. It was all in that the 1 year I went, it was all in that one hall, I guess, all the developers. So they're all, as you said, they're all kind of next to each other and, people could hear what you're saying. And, it was, the excitement in the air and things like that. So it's definitely going to be a lot different than that. But hopefully people have good internet.
Well, exactly. So
that would suck.
So we won't get too much into to speculate what's going to be happening. I know the big thing is the ARM processor on the Mac side of things, iOS 14, iPhone 12. There's going to be a lot of announcements. I think we're going to save it to next week and not really got too much, unless you had any other thoughts before we moved on, Dave.
No. There's no, I mean, I have thoughts, but they will be rendered irrelevant very quickly. Yes.
We'll save them for our respective podcasts, and we'll share each other's information. So,
if you say it now and it's right, then you have it in prosperity that you've done it. So
that's right.
That's true, but there's the flip side to that coin.
That's right. That's true. That's true. But I feel like you and Dave, we've listened to podcasts all week of people speculating on everything, and at this point, it's Thursday, it's almost Friday. It doesn't.
Yeah,
we're done.
I speculated a little on TDO this week about what the first. Yeah. ARM-based device would be, ARM-based Mac would be that's available to developers. Yeah. So you can go listen to that if you want to hear my.
No, I did. I think I heard that. I think you said it was the Mini. You thought it was.
Martellero thought it was the Mini. I think it's a laptop.
A laptop. Yeah. And then, for iOS topics, somebody mentioned that maybe they'll make the iPad Pro run it, which would be awesome if that was possible.
Mac OS?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yes.
That should be interesting.
Keyboard and trackpad.
Yeah, it's close. Yeah.
That should be interesting. So, lots of coverage next week. I'll be on for Mac Eyes Only doing our reaction time episode. That's what I've been doing for the last 4 years with Mike Potter. He hasn't done an episode in a long time. And he reached out and I said, okay, let's do it. So it's going to be myself, Gary Gaz Malpas, and Chuck Joyner. And a crew, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing our reaction as the announcements are made. So, and then we'll have a full episode next week. Chuck will be on the show, so we'll have lots to talk about next week about it. So let's save it for next week. And moving on here, I attended a Showstoppers press event. Lucky, I was very, as everybody knows, I was very lucky to finally get into the press corps here with my attendance at CES and getting to hang out with Dave and all of our friends, as well as see all the great stuff at CES. And Showstoppers is a great event, and they're doing a lot of virtual events now, of course, because of everything going on. And they showcased a couple products, and I hadn't realized until I saw you pop up in the chat, and then you asked a question. So there was 3 products that they announced. The first one was a Matterport 3D capture for iPhone. I have not had a lot of chance to spend too much time on it, and it's basically like 3D rendering of a room, right, Dave?
The house. Yeah. I mean, you can do an entire, think about doing a virtual tour of an apartment or something where you can just move from room to room. As I understand it, I haven't messed with it a whole lot.
Me either, yeah.
It will, you can take all of the necessary photos with your iPhone and then it stitches it all together, and you can do one for free, right? So you can have one house or one environment for free at all times. So you can play with it. And then obviously if you're like a realtor or something, you'd then pay for, more, which makes sense. Yeah.
Warren, I'm assuming you haven't tried any of these items yet, right?
No, I have something similar to the Extreme Pro SSD, but that's about it.
All right, we'll get to that in a minute. Then,
you said any of these items.
I did say any of these.
Listed in any of these
that was
items,
a fair assessment. So then Shure came out. Of course, Shure's in my hometown here in Chicago. They came out with a new pair of headphones, the Ionic 50, the wireless noise canceling headphones. Look like some really nice pair of headphones, and I'd be really interested to get to hear the sound of them because I know Dave, you're a sound guy, musician. Thought these were interesting. I'm curious to see, a little on the pricey side for $399. But what did you think of these headphones?
Yeah, I haven't heard them yet, but very happy to see that they support AAC as a codec, which is good because that means that they work with all of our Apple devices. Right. Apple's weird. They don't support aptX on iOS devices, which is the sort of standard high quality codec. Macs do support that, but both Macs and iOS support Apple's AAC, which is equally as good as aptX in terms of fidelity. I mean, it's Bluetooth, so you're not going to get high fidelity. It's just the bandwidth isn't there to do it yet. But, the Bluetooth LE audio or whatever that was announced at CES.
We were there.
That'll get us there. We were there. Boy,
remember standing in that room.
I remember leaving that room.
Yeah, it was horrible.
Yes. It was a weird press conference. I went and recorded a podcast episode instead. But the announcement, like the content was good. It was just weird.
It was weird setup.
It was a weird setup. That's all.
All their story. And then SanDisk did come out. I have these, the Extreme Pro. These are really nice drives. And the reason I bring them up here on this show is because they'll work really nicely with your iPad Pro or your iPad. iPad Pro, because you have to have USB-C. And these drives are awesome, and they're so fast. And then the Pro looks like they've even added more fast at 1,050 megabytes a second speeds. And the ones I have are great. I use them for music. I use them for the photos and backups, and I've got 3 of them actually. That's how crazy I am. The 1 terabyte models, and I was able to get them for cheap during Christmas time. So, but they're pricey. $120 for a 500 gig. You got 1 terabyte at $200. So, but you're paying for portability. What'd you think on these, Dave?
Yeah, it was nice to see them, fully support USB 3 Gen 2. Yeah. Right. So you like you said, you get that, 1,000 plus megabyte per second transfer rate, which is the most you're going to get out of USB 3 Gen 2. Yeah. But which is great. Yeah. I mean, that's, the beauty of NVMe drives, man. It's an awesome world we get to live in.
It is.
So
with the small little drives, are really nice. And you said Warren, they're awesome. Warren, you said you have a couple. Do you have something similar to these, or do you have some of these?
Yeah, I have the WD one that's like that, and then I have a couple of ones I built myself with a case in the end. And what is it? NVE? Is that what it was? NMVE? Something like that.
NVMe. Yeah.
And NVMe, and that's it. Yeah, they're fun. You could boot an operating system off it. You could boot a Mac OS off of it, which is always fun to do. You know, I know you've talked a few times about Thunderbolt 3. I haven't seen too many in the way of a Thunderbolt 3. They have a few external drives, but nothing quite like that. Nothing too small, I don't think.
You know who it's I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, and I can't remember who's making it. Dang. But there is one company that's got a Thunderbolt 3 drive that's basically just the size of the NVMe chip. I'll find it. I'll share it somewhere. I don't know.
I saw a few out there, and they're expensive, of course.
Yeah.
And then you got to wonder if it's what you can do with it. It's probably mostly for like people who really are doing video coding and need to transfer fast back and forth. So, but it's always fun to see how fast you could get onto a drive like that.
I here in the studio, I've got the OWC. I guess it's the Aura, right? Which is their Thunderbolt. The Thunderbolt 3 drive, and it does like 2,400 megabytes a second or whatever. The issue with Thunderbolt drives is they usually end the Thunderbolt chain, right? So you have to really think about, do you need that speed?
Right.
Because a USB drive doesn't end the chain. You can have that hanging off of a dock and daisy chain and all of that stuff, but a Thunderbolt 3 drive will end the chain. You can have a dock in between, but now you're sharing that bandwidth with whatever you might have off the dock. So I find it is helpful. The fast drive, when I'm doing this project now where I have like 44 tracks of audio in Logic, and so without that drive, it would I don't have another drive that would go fast enough to make it so that I could do that. But otherwise, it's nice. Like you said, it's nice to see how fast you can go, and then that's about it.
Yeah.
And then figure out if you actually need anything quite like that. So
Yep.
So let's go ahead and move on real quick. T-Mobile has a home internet service which I was intrigued to find out about. They offered it in my area, so I figured what the heck. They had a free trial, so I could try it out for a week, for a month. I could show this on camera here. This is what the gateway looks like if it doesn't go disappearing here. And it's got the SD card in here, so it is LTE, so the speeds aren't the greatest. So they say they guarantee 25 megabit speeds for download, and the upload is not symmetric. It's not symmetric. So I was measuring it right around 15. But that's a consistent speed for an LTE device, and performance wasn't too bad. Right now, I just unplugged it and it's on battery, so this is still is still working. So I can still use this as a hotspot. It only works in the home. They, according to their regulations, they say you're not supposed to take it with you somewhere else. I don't know how you would not be able to do that, because it is LTE as it is, but they could see once you're on a different cell tower, they could say, oh, hey, why did you take that with you, and then cancel your service. So it's unlimited. It's unlimited data. There's no data caps at all on it. So, and it's $50 a month, which isn't terribly expensive, but it's LTE. It's not 1 gigabit like I'm getting with Comcast. So I figured check it out for a month and see what it was all about. I don't think it's anything I'm going to be too crying home about. It's probably going to be going back. So what do you think? What did you think, Dave?
That's interesting. I mean, yeah, depending on what your other options are,
right,
that's not a bad thing to have. If you, especially nowadays, right, we're working from home, you might want a backup option for $50 a month. I mean, you could do it a little bit cheaper with, if you have like a phone that you could hook up USB to your, yes, there is a cheaper path, but in terms of simplicity and it's just right there, it's not bad.
And I didn't go through the app. There's the iOS app that works on your iPhone, and you can connect directly to this device. You can get into the router, make all the router changes that you need to get access to the gateway, add any port forwarding. It even has QAS, so you can do a packet quality of service, right? I always get that tongue to that will reduce the the bandwidth usage. And I went downstairs from my house down here, and I didn't get as good a signal. So I think this gateway is probably it says 1,700 square feet it covers, and my house is probably about that size, and it was still pretty weak when I was downstairs. So, but like I said, for a backup device, it might be something good. I don't know if it's something primary, unless you're in a bind and you just can't find service.
Yeah.
And they're not really. Warren, you tried to get it, and they said it wasn't available, right, in your area.
Which doesn't make sense because I'm in an LTE area.
Yeah.
I thought it was when you first told me, I thought it was a 5G device.
I thought it was too, and it's not. So, which
I would totally, be more interested in. For $50 a month, unlimited 5G. Sign me up right now. I'll take that.
Yeah.
In a second. But I get LTE here, no problem. I don't know why it wouldn't be available. As Dave was saying, it's good in a pinch. I mean, certainly we all remember the days of people using satellite, out in the Midwest using satellite internet to get on, and that was like 1 megabit per second or something worse. It was horrible. Yeah. So for like someone
900 millisecond latency,
it was horrible. Yeah. So I mean, what was that company? There was a company that was selling to everybody that did
Wild Blue.
That might have been one. That might have been another I remember too. But there was like one or two like that. Because I used to do remote tech support for Geek Squad a while ago, and then when I would know when I got one of those customers, because you just couldn't do anything with them. So for them, for people like that who can't get good internet, this is an option, probably better than that. But 5G, sign me up. I'll take that when that comes out.
I think about it. I probably could take this with me downstairs and not have it up here, and then I have the coverage. It's right next to me. So I mean, there's that option. It's running on battery. It's got the big size battery. That'll probably hold charge for a few hours. So that might be another option too. So anyway, I thought it was interesting find. Wanted to share with you guys. As we wrap things up, getting close to the end here, I had 2 apps I wanted to talk about really quick. Notability, which is a great note-taking app on the iPad. 9.4 version, it improved the audio system because, it did have a little lacking for sound when you would record memos, especially, and record meetings. So they did do some improvements on that. It's a great app. I've used it before. Warren, have you used Notability at all?
I have not. I just started getting into the iOS Reminders app, which is getting me through life right now.
And we all use Note app. I mean, I think I'm pretty hooked on Apple Notes. I hard to really get away from it. I use it so much for all the note taking. What about you, Dave? Do you use note taking apps on iOS?
Yeah, I standardized on Evernote before Apple Notes really kind of came to fruition. Apple Notes, though, is at a point where I could migrate to it. I've considered doing that. I've considered migrating over to Synology's Note Station because I've got a disk station, and so I can just use that. But I use Evernote. Notability, I know a lot of people use it. 2 of them live in my house with me. My wife and daughter love the way Notability works, and on the iPad especially. So
and then the other app was Pocket Casts, one of my favorite podcasting apps, and I've done plenty of reviews on all of the podcasting apps. There's so many of them. But Overcast, actually, this podcast, I think all of you who listen, look according to my stats, Overcast is the favorite podcast app of choice for listening here. So, but I like podcast. I was a Downcast user, and I kind of lean towards that one more. But Pocket Cast it's hard to beat. Well, they did some pretty major updates. Notably, was the adding of a standalone Apple Watch playback app on the Apple Watch. So now you can actually put your podcast on your watch, add it to the storage, be able to play the podcast really easily, and it's stored on the watch. So if you go out for a run, go for a walk, you don't want to carry your phone with you, you got your watch, and you can listen with your AirPods and check that out. Do you have a podcasting app of choice, Dave?
Overcast is often the one that I will use. Yeah, that's. But I bounce back and forth. I like the way Pocket Cast does things. I'm not I have no one loyalty. Yeah.
They also added a new theme, and they got new icons, so it's a little refresher interface. Warren, do you have a podcast app of choice that you use?
Just Apple Podcasts. I pretty much use all the time.
Okay.
I bought Overcast. I think I've used it a few times, but I mean, as I'm not crazy picky, as long as it plays a podcast and I could, I listen to my car, so I'm not worried about chapters and things like that. I just kind of listen to it. So, for me, Apple's is good. And there's an article out here that they might include a revamped version of it in iOS 14. So
yes,
we'll see
I saw that.
That looks like
that should be interesting.
So that should be interesting. But yeah, I'm good with Apple for now. I like the way it syncs across my the Mac and the iPad.
Yep. All right. One quick tip I was going to throw out there of one I had here on our notes is I found this interesting. Someone this morning asked me, for some reason I've got this 2 on every email on my Apple email emails, and I'm like, oh, why would you have that? That doesn't make any sense. And then I remembered, oh yeah, if you go into mail settings under settings, and if you go into mail, there is a choice under the message list under show to and CC labels. Why that's there, I don't know if I want that to be identified. If you turn that on, every single email says to, and every single email shows you if it's been CC'd. So, who knew? That was there. So another quick find I found this morning when I was helping somebody.
It's one of the 5 things you'll learn on this show.
Right.
I don't use that. I leave that to Dave. And
that's one of the. So. That's one of. It's one of the 1 things you'll learn on this show.
I think there were more than 5 things. I learned more than 5 things on this show, so it's good.
Good. Yeah. I think it's fitting for every show, and you've always inspired me with that stuff. And Dave, I want to touch you real quick. We just had our 100th episode, which was awesome, and
congratulations, by the way.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
But you guys did too. Wait.
Yeah, you guys just had your 15th year, right?
Yeah, before you go any further.
We did 15 years on last week.
But
congrats.
Thank you.
If you didn't hear it on the show, I did add a couple of highlights from the last 100 shows, and one of them was actually I brought in the 2015 when I stood on stage for the first time with you and Chuck in the house and at MacStock, and that really got you and Chuck and Allison, all 3 have really been quite an inspiration to me, and I'm continuing to do great things with this podcast, and I had a lot of fun, and I appreciate everything you've helped me with supporting it, and appreciate you being on the show. This was just always a blast every time I have you on here. So
I appreciate being here. Thanks for inviting me. This was a blast. I love it. Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun stuff. So, well, we got to the hour already, and let's go ahead and close this up here and wrap things up here. I got to get a theme song, a cue. We could hand it out, but I do. I actually do have the theme song. So let's go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll see where everybody can find you here in just a second. That's a wrap for this week. Please send your comments, suggestions, and questions to our email address, feedback@intouchwithios.com. You can follow us on Twitter @intouchwithios, so you can subscribe on your favorite podcatcher, including Apple Podcasts and many others, including even iHeartRadio and Stitcher and Spotify and all those others. Just go to our website intouchwithios.com, where all the links to all the ways to listen to us are there, and they're all on the side of that page. So just click a link. I am Dave Ginsburg, and you can find me on Twitter @DaveG65. Again, Dave Hamilton, thanks for being here. Where can people find you?
People can find me easily on Twitter @Dave Hamilton, and make sure you remember he said feedback @intouchwithios.com. That's right.
Did you say feedback @intouchwithios.com?
What was that? What'd you say?
That's correct.
Yes, that's right. And Warren, I know we could find you because you never want to tell anybody, but I tell you, make you do it anyways. You're on the Facebook group Mac to the Future, 3,000 people strong, and what's been interesting on there this week?
It's a little bit of WWDC speculation stuff, pretty much. It's been a good week. Not too many issues. It's a good group. I'm talking about the COVID pencils. We talk about COVID, Apple pencils. We see Guy on there a lot.
Yes, we do see Guy there a lot.
Yeah, he comes on a lot. It's fun, if you have the time, can join us. And other than that, we do the show with the Guy on Wednesday nights, mostly. Last night kind of did not work.
Bit of a train wreck.
That wasn't my fault at all. I just went along with it.
But we love Guy.
No, he's a fun guy, but he likes to touch things.
He loves tinkering too much.
It's all good. And that's about it.
All right, great. Anyway, everybody, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show, and we will talk to you again soon.